Hey, everybody, welcome to the New Show Plus show. I'm this week's host, and I can hear myself, which is terrible. I'm Jeff Marchiafava, and Cyril Vasquez is here.
Hello.
And this is the only show on the internet where we promise a new show series every week. And that show series is decided by you guys at patreon.com/MinnMax, where you can vote on a couple different options. And for some reason, this week, everybody has chosen gaming's greatest debates with me and Cyril.
The people have chosen.
Right? It's the people's choice, and this is what you've wrought for all of us. And so the premise of this show, I think, is basically it's kind of like People's Court, where the community can bring in whatever long-standing video game beefs you have, debates about who's better than who, or whatever you guys want decided once and for all. Cyril and I will debate them amongst ourselves as the final grand arbiters of all video game related knowledge.
Yeah,
and then we'll come down with a verdict and we'll pass it on. And about this, we are going to be official for all time, and they become actual canon within the video game series that we're talking about. So that's pretty amazing that the publishers gave us all this power, but that's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
You ready for this, Cyril?
I certainly am. I think you did cut out for a little bit there, but the idea is that these are super important debates that everyone should take full stock in, and I will be the Judge Judy. And I think all that means is I'm going to do this whenever appropriate.
Yes.
That's the only thing I know about Judge Judy. And sometimes she can be a little mean to the people who are bringing their cases to her. But I'll try not to be that mean, but I'll still try to be a character. I don't know. We'll figure this out as we go.
Yes. And I'm still trying to get the chat.
Yes,
because I couldn't pull it up until we went live, which is not the greatest thing.
Yeah, so the way this works is that you guys give us some prompts.
But now we are ready.
About what you guys want to.
Whatever you've been dying to know for years. Oh, here we go. Natsley wants to know what's better, or the more influential game, Ocarina of Time or Final Fantasy VII?
Man, I mean, those are two different questions, I guess. I think influential is maybe the better debate here, which is ironic.
Yeah. Okay.
Fava, let's start with you. What do you think? Where do you land on this?
You know, I hadn't played Final Fantasy VII until the remake that just came out, and so really I've only played like the first 20% of that series.
Mm-hmm.
But I played Ocarina of Time, of course, when it came out because I was a big Nintendo boy back then. But I'm gonna guess that it's still Final Fantasy. Or I'm not guessing here. We're not guessing. We're laying down verdicts. And I'm leaning towards Final Fantasy VII at this point.
Yeah, I think I would definitely lean the other way on Ocarina of Time. I think what it did for how people... I know Mario 64 is probably maybe more influential than either in terms of how people figured out how to move characters in a 3D world. But I think a lot of people think back to Z targeting as a major thing that helped combat in 3D games really work. And obviously, that's kind of where I'm coming from, because I played Ocarina of Time when I was a kid and I didn't really play Final Fantasy VII. But overall, that's
we're both biased against Final Fantasy VII, even though I'm choosing Final Fantasy VII. I feel like Final Fantasy VII has the larger legacy, though, in terms of storytelling and characters and just the Final Fantasy franchise itself, which is maybe a little more of the series weight in there than the actual entry. But I mean, I don't see Nintendo doing a 100-hour remake of Ocarina of Time.
Well, that's because I think Final Fantasy VII is a game that has aged way worse, which is a different question, I think, than what they're asking here. I think Ocarina of Time did not necessarily need an overhaul of most of its systems to even work on a modern console. The straight ports are very different from the remake. But I do think that Final Fantasy VII has this legacy of bringing a lot of people into gaming for the sake of story, which I think is not something you can discount easily. Like that, I think for a lot of people, unless you played 6, unless you were one of the super cool people who played 6 when it came out, a lot of people were like, oh, this is like the first time that I took a video game's story very seriously. Which I love Ocarina's like story in terms of mood, but not necessarily like the events that happen are so profound or meaningful. I just really like the mood that game sets. So it's definitely like, I think both of these are really pretty influential games. But yeah, I think it's pretty close, but I would maybe still give the edge a little bit to Ocarina, but I think Final Fantasy VII is like, it's hard to understate that game's impact in terms of storytelling and how many people like look back on that game like really fondly and said that kind of sparked an interest in them.
That's a great point, Serial. So what are we going to do? Both Nintendo and Square Enix are in the chat right now, desperate for their game to be named the most influential. They're going to have to change box art, little labels and all kinds of things, depending on what we choose.
Well, I think we're going to have to take a 4-hour recess on this. I think it's going to be really important that we all kind of think about it, like bring our arguments. We're going to have to call witnesses.
Expert witnesses, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to have to bring in Reggie, of course. We've subpoenaed Reggie to talk about it, even though he has no real relevance. I just want to talk to him, which I think is how cases work. And then we'll just have, we'll have a deliberative body vote, regardless of what our cases are, and it'll be decided that it doesn't really matter.
I think I understand now why courts only have one judge for these kind of things.
You know what? Yeah, it's starting to make a little bit of sense.
But I'll tell you what, Serial, I haven't even played through all of Final Fantasy VII yet, so I don't even know where the story goes or anything. So I'm happy to give it to Ocarina of Time because that's the game I grew up playing as a kid too. So if that sounds biased, I'm sorry, but officially now and forever, Ocarina of Time is the more influential game.
That's right.
As opposed to Final Fantasy VII.
And if you're upset about that ruling, I think we would like to use this show in part to say that like systems are flawed by the biases of the people in charge of them. So I think that's a great lesson for the kids, So
that is true. But we should also mention that these are lifetime appointments as the official video game arbiters. So you're kind of SOL on that.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best.
So
going forward.
I don't have a gavel, but I have my phone, which I can tap against my microphone and say, guilty.
There you go. If that's not official, I don't know what is. We really should have gotten a gavel and some rope for this.
The official MinnMax gavel. That's on the way.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll order it for next time this happens. Another question, Mike Spam, how many copies of Power Rangers Battle for the Grid have been purchased on Google Stadia? That's not really
that's not a debate. Well, I mean, we could each guess and say which guess of ours is closer, but that's like that we can look that up, I think, maybe.
I'm gonna say 0 because technically you don't really own the games if it's a digital only service.
That is
You're just licensing them from the people, which is why physical media needs to continue on forever and ever.
Okay, real quick, I would like to see Exhibit A to see if there are physical copies of Battle for the Grid.
Well, not on Google Stadia, for sure.
Well, yeah, 0 on Google Stadia. None of them have sold. Yeah, but there are physical copies, but there is no physical Stadia copy with like a code or something. So, yeah, I think 0 have been sold, but X number have been licensed. I think this is another great case for this show because it just says that a lot of the times, it is a misnomer or a misclassification of the case. We're gonna have to throw it out.
Yeah, sorry, we're kicking that one up to the Supreme Court on this one.
Yeah.
Commander Cool has a great one. Once and for all, is it true that Sega does what Nintendon't? That's a big fat yes. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with a yes on that one.
They do. I mean, look, Nintendo does not release Total War games. They don't publish those, so that's something that Sega does that Nintendo don't make Total War games.
That's true. Nintendo don't make Sonic the Hedgehog. We're not saying if what they're doing is better or worse.
Yeah,
it's just different.
The quality of what Sega does is not the purview of this case. It is whether or not they Sega do what Nintendo, and that I think that is 100% true.
Correct. Bang the gavel.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
I'm sure that's a lovely noise that people love to hear. That really gives every case a finality.
Jawar Hello asked, what would happen if we just didn't ask any questions? Would they have to vamp for an hour? Hey, bailiff, get this guy out of here. We don't need those kind of questions. I'm a biggie boy. Did Killzone bring anything of value to first-person shooters? That's an interesting one.
I think that the first thing I go to is it became the go-to example for trailers that end up not looking like the game. So like that Killzone 2 thing, which I think they eventually got close, but not quite there. And then Killzone 3 actually looked better. If not like as close as you can get, it probably looked as good as that trailer. But I remember people saying like there was no way, like this was all BS. There was no way the game looked like this at that point when they showed it.
So that's kind of a dubious.
Dubious. But I would argue that has value.
Negative value for consumers.
That's true.
I would say that
made the world better.
Yeah, I would say that Killzone was the first time someone played a video game on a Tonight Show.
Was it?
Like, I'm assuming so. It brought a first-person shooter to a level that video games hadn't really achieved in terms of widespread popular culture. Although I can't believe that maybe
that
happened with Call of Duty or something. Yeah. Certainly the first game that Jimmy Fallon played poorly on television for a live audience. I mean that still was a super weird thing to see. Like even when we were covering games at GI, it was like, what the hell? They're devoting like an entire segment to him playing this first-person shooter. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know either. You know what? Maybe the answer is just no, Serial.
The last thing, I don't know if this was influential or like something they did first, but I remember Killzone 2 had that mode where you went from mode to mode in the same match, where they were like, okay, you're gonna play deathmatch for a little while. Okay, you've the one side has won. We're switching. The next round is capture the flag, and it's like everyone from the same match is still in there. So it was like a series of you had to win different match types, and it was like a 3 out of 5 thing, I think it was. And whoever won that, that's a cool mode. I don't think it's been implemented too often in other games. So if it has value, it's probably minimal. I would say that it is technically it has had some value, but it is very minimal, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. It's also probably made millions and millions of dollars. So
it has brought value to Sony, I imagine, at a period where they needed that. So I think technically yes, but it's like they moved on for a reason.
And we shall move on now from.
That's right. Guilty of minimal value.
Jai Bones asks, Super Mario World or Super Mario Brothers 3? Once and for all. This is the question that always comes up.
Yeah. I think I have my answer.
All right. Should we just both say them at the same time?
I believe that is official court proceeding. Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Super Mario World.
Brothers 3.
Damn it. This was going to be so easy, Surreal.
I think I like Super Mario Brothers 3's World a lot more than World, but I think.
What does that even mean, Surreal?
I like the look of it. I like the way it's like this weird like toy block. Like the first few levels are like this weird abstract.
Yeah, that was like 3 levels, Surreal. Did you play longer than 3 levels?
Like eventually you get to a point where you're like running around in a giant shoe, like on spikes and stuff, and then the last few levels are just like you're just flying around in airships. It's like almost like abstract art, a lot of those worlds. But I don't hold that opinion super passionately. But I think at some point, like when I was a kid, I definitely preferred Mario World because I think your moveset is a little more
amazing.
Fancy. Yeah, in
I mean, it's that jump to 16-bit, and I'm tired of us constantly dragging around the Super Mario Brothers 3 that no one even played because we were all too young to play it back then. Let's just cut off that. I just demiked myself. I'm sorry. Let's
No,
just give it to Super Mario World. I'm tired. Listen, we worked at GI so long, and we had to carry around that Super Mario Brothers 3 crap because so many people were old there. Let's just fresh start Super Mario World. The music was banging.
That is a good point. It was banging.
And we had a cape.
The defense rest, which is weird because I think I'm technically a judge, but guilty. Super Mario Brothers 3 of being a good game, or Super Mario Brothers 3 is a good game. Super Mario World is a better game.
Transcendent. You've heard it here. Quentin Cass asks, "Do you think love can bloom on a battlefield?"
Yes, I do think it can.
Yes.
I mean, I think by the time Otacon asks that question, I think he is basically confiding in Snake. He is not really asking that question. He is telling more than asking.
I didn't even know what the reference was, so you can bang the gavel.
It's a Metal Gear thing. Okay,
perfect.
Otacon is guilty of having his love bloom on a battlefield. We're just flying through these cases.
We are, but there's so many of them. Let's see. Which is great, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad we have so many things to debate right now. Unlike what Jawar Hello was trying to set up some kind of coup in the comments section.
Yeah.
Yep. Grizzled Gaming asks, facial hair, beard or no beard?
Well, I have a beard.
I just shaved, but yes,
okay.
100% beard. It's great. At some point, it's going to get so long that it just becomes cumbersome because it kind of like curls down into your mouth and you start getting food on it. Once every couple months, I'll just shave it all off along with, all the other hair. But I'm not going to shave every day. What kind of nonsense is that?
Yeah.
I'm going to devote like 10% of my life to shaving?
That's how much you have to
It takes me a long time to shave, yes.
Yeah.
So...
I think that beard length is definitely another question we can talk about, but I think overall, yes or no, I would definitely lean yes.
It's settled.
Beard is guilty of being good.
I like how everything's guilty.
I don't know what else is. I don't know what kinds of like. I don't know how they decide things in arbitration or like in civil court. I just know if guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, I'm sure Judge Judy has some kind of tagline that she likes to say or something, but
that's been Judied. I think that's what she says.
Judified.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. DBRG13. Have we ever figured out how to say that?
Dr. Big, I think.
Is what he's going for.
Yeah.
What is more? Lost it. What is more influential? I believe it was Mario or Pokemon.
Oh man,
there's a question.
There is a question.
It's got to be Mario still, right?
I think
platformer versus monster collecting.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean by influential, because I think Pokemon has had a larger impact. I think, but I think more people have drawn on from the well of Mario in terms of how to make just like video games in general. Like the side scroller is a genre that Mario basically like not invented, but like defined in a lot of ways of like, this is how you do these things. And Pokemon has been huge, absolutely. But I think it is more, I think a lot of Pokemon's influence has been like, how do you market a product in a lot of ways? Which is like, how do you turn something that kids really like into this phenomenon? And that, even then, it's not like the first thing to do that, right? Like there's stuff like what are those Pogs, or like it's like it was a fad at one point that just endured, and there's a lot of lessons you can take from that. But in terms of influence, I think I would probably give it to Mario.
In terms of like an infinite mascot creation machine, Pokemon would win, and like just putting cartoon characters on any imaginable thing that you could think of. But in terms of video games and video game creation, we still have to go with Mario.
Yeah, we find in favor. I think this is a thing people say.
Oh,
right?
there you go.
In favor of Mario.
Let's see. Airlines up. I hate reading names so much. I'm sorry. Is Smash Brothers a fighting game or a party game? I'm gonna mostly defer to you on this one. Sir.
Yeah, I think it is a fighting game. I think it is what they call a platform fighter, but I think it still falls into the camp of a fighting game. It's just the rules are very different.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that says that a fighting game has to be complex, right? It's not like a racing game is necessarily Gran Turismo, and anything less than that is no longer a racing game.
Yes, I would say that. I think a lot of people would say that Smash is like among the most technical ones in terms of movement and stuff. But you're right in that like there is like fighting games have very few defined rules, and like I think some people would say that a health bar is necessary, but like the percentage thing in Smash Brothers is another form of a health bar. So I think Mario does, or Smash Brothers does count as a fighting game, and that's
but it's still hell of a fun at a party too.
Yes, it is a fighting game that is fun at a party.
Let's see. T Brinkle asks, "What? I've always wondered who do you think makes the best open worlds? I'm thinking Rockstar and Nintendo."
I mean, dude, can we just are cases like this brought to courts of just like, what do you think is the best law?
Yeah, that's not just best open world creator, developer, singular.
Yeah, I think that helps define the question a little bit more.
Okay. Do you have one in mind, Cyril?
Man, I think it is either Nintendo or Rockstar, but I think you have to come at the question from completely different angles. I think Rockstar is the best in terms of making their worlds feel like living, breathing worlds in the traditional sense, the very cliche, like, oh, it's a living world or whatever. But I think Rockstar is definitely the best at making you feel like as you're walking around that people are actually inhabiting that space. Whereas I think Nintendo makes like the best playgrounds for like, oh, you can just go here and just like mess around and cool things are happening all the time.
Are we basing all of that on Breath of the Wild?
Well, I think Mario Odyssey is also like a series of pretty interesting worlds.
I do like Odyssey too.
Yeah, yes. But I think maybe on the whole, in terms of like the worlds themselves, I think Rockstar probably has the edge here.
Yeah, I'm going with Rockstar for the same reason, and that's why I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 forever, because it's just such an amazing world. I'm half living my world and half living Red Dead Redemption 2 world.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know which is which.
Sometimes you go outside to look for your camp in real life and you realize it's super cold.
Yep. So we're finding in favor of Rockstar on this one. Waluigi says, is Zelda Breath of the Wild overrated? Many people say it's the best game ever made.
I don't think it's overrated. I wouldn't say it's the best game ever made, but I think it is appropriately rated.
I'm still in the middle of trying to play through it again, so I will abstain from this question for now. Let's kick this one down the road, and we'll circle back to it at some time.
We'll take it to appeals court. That's our spin-off show.
Yeah. Let's see. Gotta scroll back up. The Smack asks, Shadow of the Colossus, platformer or not?
I don't think it's a platformer. I think it has platforming elements, but not everything with RPG elements is an RPG.
Yeah, platforming elements. I still haven't played Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, I think when people have these discussions about, is this a thing? Like, is this type of thing? I always think about if I were to request category and someone gave me example, would I be pleased, right? And if someone said, hey, I want to play a platformer, and I said, here's Shadow of the Colossus, I don't think I would satisfy that person. I think
Yeah.
this is a different game than I kind of wanted.
That's in the courts, they call that the pornography test.
That's right.
You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
I think.
And
from now on, if you're seeing Shadow of the Colossus, you're not seeing a platformer. It's decided.
Not guilty of being a platformer, Shadow of the Colossus.
Bobby Backwards. Here's one that could almost actually be a legal case. Did Fortnite just rip off PUBG? I'm not a huge Fortnite fan, but I'm going to go ahead and say no, they didn't, because, well, I mean, they did. We just talked about this with like the Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system thing. They took a design that already existed and they built upon it and turned it into something new. And I think with Fortnite in especially, like they already had that entire building system and stuff, and that is completely different from any other battle royale on the market.
I think you can make a very strong, like it's hard not to say that they did at some point steal a lot of concept, like the basic structure of battle royale, but PUBG didn't invent that style of game either. And I think if you're thinking about like, well, they should be taken to court for that, I think you set a really bad precedent of like, well, anytime someone takes, like a large, identifiable thing from another game that is liable to cause a lawsuit, I think you get down a really slippery slope.
Yeah, you want them to be able to do that.
Yeah, not guilty of ripping off PUBG.
Yes, and also PUBG took battle royale from battle royale.
Yeah, and then like I think there was some, I think Rust had some version of it that I think people really liked, and DayZ had something like it. So it definitely was not like the first. It was just like the one that got really popular.
Yep. Commander Cool asks, who and where is your bailiff? Hanson is our bailiff, and you can't see him, but we actually can see him, and it's very distracting because he's almost in pitch darkness, and we can just kind of see his face glowing in as he moves next to the monitor every now and then.
The dark bailiff, we like to call him.
So he's lurking in the shadows in case we need him, just like any good bailiff would be.
That's not a case; it's more of a question. But
yeah,
so we can.
But I think we can officially declare that he's a creep.
That's right.
Shadow
guilty.
Shazira asks, Epona or Epona? I don't know. Is that
well? That one wasn't right at all.
Is that the debate?
Yeah.
What are the two ways that people say the horse's name?
I'm not sure. I think I pronounce it. I want to say Epona.
I think I always said Eponia. Eponia? I think I just add an I in there because it's like a pony.
Epona. There's there's been a lot of contention about this.
Epona or Eponia?
Yeah, Epona or Epona.
Epona.
Yeah, I think we need a star witness here to really.
Apparently, from what I know of Japanese, which I did study it for 4 years, so I don't know why I'm saying it like I'm a complete moron. But they don't really emphasize specific syllables in words. So as kind of, if you can go through it, Epona.
So you wouldn't say Epona.
Eponia, Epona.
Yeah, Epona. I
official ruling confirmed.
Okay, Epona. It is pronounced Epona.
Which y-axis setting is more logical, regular or inverted? God, I love this question. I'm so happy to have this answered once and for all. Quentin Cass again. It's normal. It's regular. We're not planes, for crying out loud. If you're playing a flight simulator, then by all means invert it. But for normal head movement, up is up and down is down.
Yeah, if your instinct is to move the stick up to look up, and I think that is just a more logical way to do things. If you're the type of person who needs that like visualization of like controlling the character's head or whatever from behind their head or whatever it is that inverted people visualize the game as, that's fine. I'm not telling you you're playing the game wrong, but in terms of logic, I think standard, and they call it standard for a reason, and inverted is inverted.
Although, now that we do mention it, I guess I started as inverted for a long time too, and I don't know. So maybe the logical thing in our brains is that when you have a controller, you automatically think flight controls for some reason.
Yeah, I guess I would be curious to see, like if you gave a controller with with a game with camera controls to someone who hadn't played a game before, what would it, and you told them to look up, would they use the up or down on the control stick to look up?
Yes.
That'd be a very interesting test.
But we can't do that ourselves. So right now and forever, more logical is regular.
That's right. We don't need any evidence. We don't need to call witnesses.
Yeah. We're going to have to inform Kyle at some point.
Yeah, find in favor of standard.
Also, like I struggled with that for years too, and I would always turn it to inverted, and then one day I can't remember what game I was playing, but I was like, I gotta figure this out once and for all. It took like a couple hours just for my brain to rework my brain into
Yeah, I remember when I first started reading manga that I had to rework my brain to read the panels backwards, because that's how they're written in Japan, is that you have to, the flow of the panels is basically exact opposite. But yeah, it didn't take super long. So yeah, we are finding in favor of standard, and if you use inverted, you will be paying a $200 fine.
Correct. Yelp, I'm a person waving. Over under 7 years on how much time should elapse before a game should be remade. So should it be over? I guess, yeah. Should it be more or less than 7 years?
I would say it's more than it should be at least 7 years. So more. I would go over.
Yeah, let's do it, because I mean that's like almost just one generation.
Yeah.
So I guess that is a question. If we're talking remakes, yeah, I think it's okay to like release a game on one generation and then release it again on the next one, but that's not really a remake per se.
That's more of a game, like something like The Last of Us Remastered is more of a Game of the Year edition than it is like a remake.
Yeah, so that's okay. From now on, we're making the call. You can release a game more than once if you're just kind of upgrading for the next generation, but if it's an official remake, you have to wait at least 7 years, and if a publisher doesn't, they owe MinnMax $15,000.
Yeah, I think that's legally binding now. So
should we go higher though?
We can throw in some punitive damages. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say $150,000.
Yeah, just because we have to pay
per
the
host.
lawyers that aren't in here. We're going to say that.
Okay.
So we find in favor of over, with huge punitive fines if you don't abide by the rules.
Directly to MinnMax.
That's right.
Someone also said that tapping on the microphone with your phone actually works really well. Apparently it sounds exactly like a gavel. So
okay, great.
We're doing good. Shazira, again, another one of these classic pronunciation questions. Tidus or Tidus?
Some people even say Tidus.
Maybe that's what she meant. I mean, I can't tell. It's text. Tidus or Tidus?
I always pronounced it Tidus, but I'm not willing to fully say that is correct. But I can't imagine. I played through all of Final Fantasy X, and I can't imagine that they don't pronounce his name. Because it's not, well, I guess unless he was one of those characters you could name yourself and they just never bothered to mention his name at all.
Hansen is shaking his head from the shadows.
So then I guess
not
you are just
head from the shadows. That is the case. You must.
But they also do that in Final Fantasy X too, then, because that whole game, I think you are literally playing as Yuna. There's no question that you are playing as a named character in that. So I guess they just refer to him as like the hero or him or in the entire context of that game, which in retrospect seems absurd. Like they should not have done that. They should have just said, like, at this point, this is this character's canon name. We're not going to dance around naming.
They person. Left it up to us, and we're the arbiters. Serial. I like Tidus too.
I think Tidus,
that sounds right.
I think I always associated it with the comedian Christopher Tidus. but I think they might have been spelled differently. But I just have that same association.
That's a stretch, but hey, whatever gets us to a verdict, right?
Yeah, that's
Tidus.
That's the law, baby. Whatever gets us to a verdict, we find in favor of Tidus.
Decided. The smack, another quick one. Mako or Mako?
For which one? The Mass Effect one or for the reactor?
Great question.
Thank you.
I'm assuming the reactor one.
Okay. They call them Mako in the remake, right? But I don't know if that's the original pronunciation.
Mako it is. Official.
Okay. Great. Just flying through these. Mako.
Let's see. Shazira again. Super Mario, which is better, Super Mario Brothers 1 or Super Mario Land, I think it was. I lost. Oh, and now I have highlighted everything.
Oh, no.
Super Mario Land, yes.
Yes, Super Mario Land.
Oh, I wasn't answering. That was the second half of the question.
Oh.
But you like Super Mario Land that much, huh?
I mean, I don't like. It's not like my favorite game, but I definitely prefer to Super Mario Brothers 1. Better music, better length. It's got those ship levels, which I'm a big fan of.
We're talking about the Game Boy game, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the one with the fake Moai statues, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go with that one.
Super Mario Land. Better
official.
Game than Super
Nintendo
Mario
can no longer sell the original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, they have
before they it anymore.
Before they re-release Super Mario Brothers 1 again, they have to re-release Super Mario Land.
Yes, it's been more than 7 years, so
yeah.
Good thing is they don't have to pay us for that, which kind of sucks for
3D
us.
3D Land does not count. That is not a remake. That is not a 3D remake of Super Mario Land. So
yeah. Okay.
Finding in favor of Super Mario Land.
Oh, here's one. Ray Luaza, which is the superior horror series, Resident Evil or Silent Hill?
Much to think about. Mostly because I think I like Resident Evil more as a series, but I don't know that I like it more as a horror series.
Great distinction.
I think Silent Hill is a better series of horror games that aren't always better games.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of chaff in both series, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like I'm mostly just, if I had to pick one game from either series as my favorite, I'd still say Silent Hill 2. Yeah. Period.
I would probably say Resident Evil 4 overall, but I don't think that game is really a horror game. It's just like there are moments in that game that are scary, but that feels to me more like an action movie that has monsters in it versus like a horror game. So I think I'm willing to give it to Silent Hill. Because I think to me, my favorite Resident Evil games are good games because they're horror games, except for like RE1 remake, which I think I really like still. But I think in terms of like 2, 3, to some degree 4, and that 1 remake for the Wii, I think are all awesome horror games. Haven't played one, so I think we can find in favor. Are you okay with that?
That works for me? It's my favorite.
All right,
sure.
We're gonna give. Silent Hill is a better horror series than Resident Evil.
I'm sure Konami will be thrilled with not making any more Silent Hill games ever.
Yeah, we've officially won this ruling of best horror series. We are gonna quit while we're ahead.
Destroyed the horror genre for video games. But what are you gonna do? Okay, we have scrolled through so many messages that we're gonna start losing messages here.
Okay.
Natsley says, who's the better attorney, Phoenix Wright or my cousin Vinny? God, I love this question.
Okay, so I think let's clarify that it is Joe Pesci's character, right? Not this person's cousin's Vinny.
Yes.
Joe Pesci wins that case, right? Like Vinny wins that case.
Oh, he wins it big time.
Yeah. But he wins the one case. Phoenix Wright, I think, wins basically every case that I can remember him being a part of, except for one. But that's like that's the point of that case, is that he is defending someone he knows is guilty, and then he's like, well, let's figure out a way to to do this, but I think Phoenix Wright relies on really lucky turnabouts and spirit mediums to get at evidence that isn't always properly acquired. I think sometimes some very weird things happen, and it's like, oh, well, I've totally lost this case, but wait, here's this one thing that I can do. So I think he just ends up in situations where he wins more as often as he actually is like, oh, I'm going to be a really good lawyer about this. That said, we only have the one case to work on from my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, but Vinny wins it with heart, and I think that counts for a lot.
Phoenix wins a lot of his cases with that is, he wins it by heart alone. He
doesn't, but not Joe Pesci heart.
He does not have Joe Pesci heart.
Brand of just good old fashioned. I just like.
I 100% agree with you. My Cousin Vinny is an excellent movie. I want to say
it's decided.
Okay,
My Cousin Vinny, greatest attorney ever.
That's right.
He's all of our cousin Vinny.
That's right.
Okay, I have copied over the chat into a notepad so that we aren't missing stuff, and we will just keep on going.
Yeah.
Prime Gaming Seeds asks, will Pokemon ever stop? No, Pokemon will never stop.
We can't. It legally can't.
It's official. Now it's official. It legally can't.
Mm-hmm. The last thing that will
otherwise, Nintendo owes us $250,000 directly to MinnMax. They'd be fools. Let's see. T. Brinkle asks, what really should have been Game of the Year in 2014?
2014?
What was...
I'm going to pull up my list and just give you my answer.
2014 year?
What was that?
Was that the year of Dragon Age?
That was, I want to say that was Shadow of Mordor. That was the year that I think that won the most.
Oh, man.
Oh, of course, it's PT. PT should have won that year.
I was going to say that Shadow of Mordor has been tainted for me because of those stupid lawsuits, so let's just give it to PT.
Great, fantastic.
Best game of the year, official. Let's see. I'm a Biggie Boy asks, will Halo ever reach its peak relevance again?
I don't think so.
No. And I think even if it does super well, there's no going back to... I mean, it was the first, big first-person shooter on consoles. It was like the only one. You're never going to capture that magic again.
Yeah, I also
so really, it's not even anyone's fault. It's not that they're making bad games, even if the next Halo is the best Halo ever. If it's really the infinite Halo, it's still not gonna reach that peak relevance.
I also think it's a moving target kind of thing, because I think even if we were to, if Microsoft were to release like statements saying like, oh, this is as popular as Halo 3, I think was maybe the high point in terms of popularity for that series, of like, it's as popular as that, it is like so much more popular than that. I think it would still be like, well, it's not as popular as Fortnite, so it did not reach the same cultural relevance. So I think it is just this thing where it's kind of been left behind, whether like for reasons beyond that franchise's own doing, right?
Yeah.
So it will Halo will never be as good as when you played it in your dorm room in 2006 or 7.
Gaming ENT Clark asks, was Nintendo Labo Toy-Con a Nintendo miss or success?
Nintendo? Okay, which one is that? Nintendo...
I mean,
you
Labo,
like the entire
right?
Labo. Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was like a specific version of it.
Now, if we stick to the letter of the law, which is what this question is asking, he's asking if it was a Nintendo miss or success. And I'm going to say it's a Nintendo success, because Nintendo goes by their own crazy rules for what's a miss or success. You know what it is? I bet they just had they probably had an entire factory full of old cardboard boxes, and they were like, we got to get rid of these. Maybe Japan has really strict recycling, laws or something, and it would have cost them a bunch of money to get rid of these. And they were like, hey, We can fold these into origami shapes and sell them for like $80 a piece instead.
Yeah,
It's genius.
I think they also didn't they release like schematics for like if you have cardboard lying around, you can just make this stuff. So I think they just said like, hey, we just want to get rid of all of our cardboard. And even if that wasn't the case, I'm sure that if you asked anybody at Nintendo, they'd be like, well, it was a success in that it taught us a valuable lesson. And so that's and for them, that's a Nintendo success. So
yeah,
Labo was a Nintendo success.
Natsley asks, a follow-up to that one, did more people play Nintendo Labo? Well, he says Nintendo, but we're going to count that as Nintendo. I think we can overlook typos
yeah.
In laws. Nintendo Labo or Half-Life Alyx?
Oh, man. I think Labo, right?
It must be Labo. There must have been, I bet so many kids played that.
Having not done any research or looked at any numbers, we're going to determine
again, this is really kind of just more of a, like, the answer's out there, but the verdict is in now, regardless of that. And it's Labo, baby.
We've determined that more people have played Labo than Half-Life Alyx.
Let's see. Waluigi asks, what video game should get the Snyder Cut treatment? I.e., everything scrapped, thrown back into the game, almost double the original length.
Man, I guess that is what it is, right? Just what game could just be redone and added to. I would almost say that it should be the opposite, where most games should just have a thing where they tighten it up. But what game could use expansion? It's hard to say.
Is that really a debate? I think we throw this one out. This doesn't seem like a court case.
Yeah, you're gonna have to settle this one in arbitration.
That's send that one to the podcast, and we'll make Hanson answer that one.
Yeah, send it to those jokers over at that podcast.
Let's see. Philzilla, the AZN. Does he mean Asian? Is that?
I can't see their username.
Philzilla. Should Ubisoft continue doing Blood Dragon-ish spin-offs for their other franchises? I would love a Blood Dragon AC game or Blood Dragon Tom Clancy. Yeah.
I could go either way. I think putting it in the 80s and making it all like, neon. That's what you kind of imply. It wouldn't actually be an 80s thing. It would just be more like, here's what you remember the 80s as. On the other hand, though, I feel like they make enough open world games as it is. So maybe just like adding more to that would maybe just make me tired of the formula even faster than usual.
Well, I'm wondering, and this is kind of, when you have to kind of reinterpret what the founders of the Constitution were thinking. Is this question asking just kind of more the complete wild spin-off expansions as opposed to specifically Blood Dragon, like 80s style?
Oh, I see. Okay, then in that case, I guess yes, because then it lets them experiment with some ideas that end up being a larger. Like if it fails, okay, well it was only in the spin-off game, but if it succeeds, it can become the cornerstone of the series or something. So I think I think it gives them a little more room to experiment then.
Yeah.
And if I don't like them, I don't have to play them. So. Yes, they should.
Yes. Commander Cool, does the Switch Pro exist? Yes.
Yes, it has to. If it doesn't, we are demanding that it exists.
And we're finding Nintendo $250,000.
Yeah, per day that it's not out.
Let's see. These are harder to go through in a notepad. We'll come up with a better... This is why it takes so long for the Supreme Court to come up with these cases.
They're just reading the chat all day, the American chat.
Yeah, you had Ruth Bader Ginsburg going through a notepad with all these comments. That's why it was so slow. Oh, everyone was losing their mind about Super Mario Brothers 3. Sorry we broke your brains, but the verdict is the verdict. No more talking about it. Let's see. Well, some people thought World was better too.
You could also control F for question mark, maybe, and then just say like, hey, if you want your question to be seen, put a question mark at the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Easily exploitable, but
we'll do that. Gaming the Smack asked Crash Bandicoot or Jack and Daxter.
I think I've played one Jack and Daxter game and I didn't finish it, so I'm gonna say Crash Bandicoot.
Decided.
Okay, great.
Gaming Seeds asks, or is that? Yes. See, when I copied it over into Notepad, it added all these weird, stupid tags of like how they subscribed and whatnot. So apologies if we get the names wrong, but names don't really matter in court cases. Yeah. Although I guess each court case is named by the name of the
person. It is literally the person who brought it up.
We're not going to worry about that. Which character has the worst everyday life?
It's got to be like some Mario character who's just like, my entire goal is to.
Well, die. Here's the thing, Cyril. I wrote a feature a long time ago at Game Informer that was called "It's a Max Payne Life," and I think it's Max Payne because he's just such a miserable SOB. Like everything goes wrong for that guy.
Okay, so I mean, you've done research on this. You're an expert.
I did the research. It was meticulously researched. It definitely wasn't just me making up crap stories based on a bunch of screenshots that had been released.
No reason to not believe you on that. So, Max Payne officially the most miserable character in gaming.
PJ MLEZ asks, Base Wars is the best NES game, yes or definitely yes?
I have not played Base Wars. I don't know what Base Wars is. I'm going to be upfront.
Yeah, I'll just go with a yes on that one.
Yeah, not knowing much about this case, let's just go with yes. We'll determine this case.
That's some jurors' prudence there. Beard. Lots of beard questions. This must be how fast the chat was going. Okay, let's see. Gaming, I mean Leafeon. No, yep, the gaming is just being added, isn't it? I mean Leafeon asks, Toad from Mario or Tails from Sonic? God, that's a great question because I don't like Sonic. Like, Sonic has always felt like the runner-up mascot to begin with. But Toad is so lame, and I feel like Tails is at least like
he's useful. He's like he's like really smart. He builds planes and stuff. He can also technically fly, which Toad cannot do. I think Tails wins in almost every category in that.
Yeah. If this was a question between Toad. Yoshi from Mario and Tails from Sonic, I would totally be Team Yoshi.
Yeah, that would be up for debate for sure.
But between Toad and Tails, we're going with Tails. Sonic has finally won something.
That's right. Tails is better than Toad. Confirmed.
Yes. And if Nintendo ever puts a Toad in another Mario game, it's $250,000 per Toad directly to MinnMax.
Yeah. So they better not make another Paper Mario game.
This has been a lucrative stream for us.
Yeah, I think we got a lot done. You know, we really moved a lot of these questions forward, settled a lot of debates. People aren't allowed to debate these anymore. I think that's one thing we should note is that if you comment talking about, bring up points or whatever about why we're not actually right, I think we're just going to have to send you to jail. So.
That is true. We only got to a fraction of these.
Yeah, there's so many more cases. There's always a backlog of cases.
Yes, that's how the judicial system works.
Yeah.
And including that's how you slur the word judicial. And I apologize. But hey, as far as first, court sessions go, we got a lot done. That was like a year's worth of Supreme Court cases in a single session. And we answered a lot of questions. And just to reiterate, now all publishers are bound by these decisions as well. They all signed on. Once we started, we contacted every single publisher, and these are all canon answers now.
Yeah, I don't know why they agreed to it, but they did, so they're bound by these rulings now.
So if you enjoyed this show, even if you didn't get your question answered, we can always do it again sometime in the future, in a future episode of New Show Plus, which is what this was part of. I thought this was going to be a disaster. This was amazing, and it's just one of an infinite number of new shows that we do every week, as decided by the community. And if you want to help make that decision, because it was a close one, we almost ended up playing Super Mario World Traveler co-op, which
3D
I
World.
actually wouldn't have.
The Traveler was the name of the show. 3D World is the name of the game.
Whatever. I wouldn't have minded playing that one, but
Yeah.
but hey, instead we made judicial history here.
That's right.
And you can help decide next week's show by going to patreon.com/MinnMax. We got a ton. Hanson, again, you guys can't see our shadow bailiff, but he's like covering his mouth because he's laughing from the shadows at me trying to do this pitch. But we got a ton of different tiers that you can subscribe at and help us, make these shows. And we have an entire Discord where I'm sure they'll be talking about all these court cases and verdicts and completely accepting our judgments on everything that we've decided so far today.
Yeah.
And a ton of other shows and lots of great stuff that you get access to if you help subscribe to us.
Absolutely.
So any final closing arguments, Thuriel?
I think some of these cases were pretty close, but I think I'm satisfied with how we've decided and where this is taking the gaming land in future years.
That's right. For generations to come.
That's right.
Because these are lifelong appointments, as we said. And that's just the way the judicial system actually works.
Yeah. People just decide things and it just stays that way forever.
So there you go. Thanks for watching and tune in next week. We don't even know what it's going to be.
Yeah. But there'll be
Bye.
something.
MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. The deepest dive is the best, most thorough discussions about games on the internet. Prove us wrong, please. The MinnMax Show podcast airs every Thursday. Patreon supporters vote on what we stream every single week, and a whole lot more. Give us a shot, try subscribing to the YouTube channel, and we hope we can win you over.